We're still on the subject in Acts chapter 16, verses 16 through to 18, regarding the spirit of divination and the certain damsel that was possessed with the spirit of divination. And she brought her masters much gain by soothsaying. In other words, they used her to receive fortune telling. And the girl followed Paul and Silas, cried, saying, "These men are servants of the Most High God, which show unto us, and it is our way of salvation," because in the original Greek this is what it is. And thus she did many days, note, many days. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the Spirit, "I command thee in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her." And he, the Spirit, came out that very hour. We ask the question, why didn't Paul cast that spirit out immediately? Why not immediately? Why did that precious little darling follow them around many days? If he knew that it was a spirit right then and there, why didn't he cast it out? Okay? Well, I'm going to take you into a story which is going to take a little bit of time to tell, but there's so much in it and so much meat to glean out of it. And the story that I'm actually going to tell you takes over a period of about 6 months' time. Now, I'm not going to take that long to tell the story, but I will try and tell it to you as concisely as possible. But after we have told you the story, then you're going to understand how it is that Paul waited many days before he ministered to this girl. Sometimes this is the case. Sometimes spirits are not cast out just immediately, even though you are aware of their presence. I had a woman give me a call on the phone, a woman that I had known for a number of years. And she says, "Mary, I know that you have gone to a different assembly than I have, and you've received some different teaching. But," she says, "because of this, I am just wondering if possibly you couldn't help this woman that has been coming to our assembly. She says, we have come to the point where we really don't know what to do with this woman. She has made a profession of faith. She has accepted Christ into her heart, but," she says, "she just doesn't seem to come up any of the standards of Christian living. She says she seems to be hungry for the Word on one hand, and on the other hand, she seems to be going through some real times of, like, she just can't be free of the things that she's doing. She has literally come to the point where she has worn us all out. We are just so distressed." She says, "Even she has so many people in the church seemingly at each other's throats. We don't know what to do with her anymore. We have come to the end of our rope. We're just greatly distressed over this whole situation." Well, I said, I don't know. I never would guarantee, something. I don't know where I'm at. I'm still new in this ministry. I've just received understanding in the gifts of the Spirit, and I don't know what to think, but I'm going to try. And so I said, well, I'll try to help. I don't know if I can or not, but I'll try. So she says, look, let me bring her over then to visit you some afternoon. We made a time for it. And instead of her bringing her to me, in turn, she took me over to her house. And we got to her house, and the woman opened the door. Now, this woman was a very attractive woman. She was nicely built. Not the metric figures, but she was 36, 24, 36, very nicely built. She was about 5'7". Lovely dark hair. Beautiful brown eyes. She looked lovely. To look at her from the outward appearance, you would say there was absolutely nothing wrong with this woman. Who would even think that this woman should be having problems? I went into her home. It was neat, clean. She had 4 children. They had a dog. It just looked like a normal, everyday home, but it was nice. And I was introduced to her, spoke to her, and came into the house and sat down. And that was the last time the woman spoke to me the rest of the afternoon. Now, if you were out to lunch, that wouldn't bother you. But if indeed you were very sensitive to what was going on, you would get highly offended because somebody ignored you. And that's exactly what she did. All afternoon, she thoroughly ignored me. She talked to the woman who brought me. And one case during the afternoon, she did get us a cup of tea and put the tea down in front of me, but really kind of like, well, you're here, I have to do it. Now, as I say, under ordinary circumstances, a person would be highly offended by being completely ignored. There is the old saying, you know, say something good about me or say something bad about me, but just don't ignore me. However, when we are dealing with spirit force, we are aware that we are not dealing with flesh and blood, so we learn never to be offended at the many things that take place. I sat very quietly all afternoon listening, observing. I saw no manifestations of any evil spirits. She talked like a normal person. When we got through, we went home. The woman who brought me, we went home. I said goodbye, and the other woman said goodbye, you know, nice to have you come. I thought, yeah, sure. We got in the car, and the lady said, well, what do you think, Mary? Do you think, you know, that she has any evil spirits or anything of this nature? I said, well, I don't know. I said, she didn't manifest anything, and I said she was normal other than the fact that she ignored me. She said, oh, you noticed that too? And I said, oh, yeah, I noticed that. Anyway, that evening, as I was laying in bed and thinking about the things of God, I said, Lord, you know, obviously there must be something here or this woman would not be so concerned about it. And if indeed, Lord, there is something, would you please reveal to me, you know, if there is evil spirits, because I would like to be able to do something for her. Well, as I laid there in bed, now we're trying to teach you on revelation and how to receive revelation, and right in our first part of our discussion on the gift of discerning of spirits, sometimes the Lord reveals to you a beast or an animal or an insect or something that you can relate to of the nature of the type of spirit that you're dealing with. And I went into the discussion about bees and wasps, right? So, as I was laying there in bed, I saw a beehive. Nice, big, round beehive. Now, I have lived on the farm and used to go out haying with a team of horses. And, you know, these bees and I have an aversion one for the other. And when I see a beehive and I see a bunch of bees, I avoid them like the plague, because I have had swarms of bees around my head. And there on the farm, when we used to go with the rake and you saw a team of horses ripping across the field, you knew very well that they had run into a bee's nest and they were getting out of the way. However, I not only saw with my spiritual eyes by a word of knowledge the beehive, but I also heard with the hearing ear, and I could literally, I am not exaggerating, I'm telling you the honest truth, I could literally hear the buzz of those bees. And there was more than one. In fact, I could see a number of bees around, and one right in the hole of the beehive. Now, I know that the queen bee does not sit in the hole of the beehive ordinarily. It's usually one of the workers or one of the guards that's in the hole. But the Lord revealed to me that it was the queen bee that was in the hole, and you could see the head sticking out of the hole. But all the others were buzzing around, see. So what was the Lord saying to me then on this? Mary, be very, very, very careful. You're in a nest of them. Okay? I believe when God gives us a revelation, we need to act on it. The following day, this woman called me, the woman we'd gone to see. And she started to talk, and she tried to feel me out to see if I had been terribly offended because she had ignored me. And I just, you know, acted as though, oh, did you really ignore me? I hadn't really noticed. Now, I wasn't being deceptive, don't get me wrong. I am aware that we're dealing with something beyond flesh and blood here now. So, time went by, and she began to phone me very frequently on the phone. I was never in my heart desirous to really ever want to go over very much to her house. Now, I'm not the type of a person to be difficult to get along with, and I'm not a person to shun others, but there was something of the moving of the Spirit of God that kept me from going very often over to her home. And in fact, I was only there on 3 occasions. The first one I've already mentioned, and I was there on 2 other occasions. Now, this woman was a very, very different kind. While I knew she was hungry for the Word, and she would phone me many times through the day. I was raising 3 small children. And she would ask me questions about the Bible, and I would answer her questions, and she really indeed did seem hungry. But by the same token, there was something about it that seemed to be very demanding about her, and she would almost monopolize a lot of your time. Not only that, but I had to be extremely careful, to be very, very careful and weigh everything that I said to this person. Because she, quote, we're dealing with spirit, but I'm saying she had a tendency to take every word that you said, and she would take it and misuse it. She would talk to somebody else and misconstrue what was said. Just take the words and use them enough, and this is what would put everybody at everybody else's throat. You know, if I made a statement, and I could take that statement and twist it, and I would say that so-and-so said so-and-so about you, but just twist it enough, you would be prone then to say, oh, really, do they think that about me? You see, and everybody would be at everybody's throat. So I learned to be very careful about what I said. I weighed everything that was said to this person. I noticed something else about her, which was rather strange. She started to come to my assembly. And we used to have some times where we would have socials and gatherings for the Christians, male and female. And I noticed something, you know, when she came in the door, something happened. People could be standing in their little groups, talking, laughing, joking, husbands and wives, different groups of people standing around. But the minute she came in the door, every eye was on her, male and female. And I started to look, and I thought, now this is most unusual. Why should it be that every eye, it just seems like it's almost like the people, even with their back to this person, were now aware that somebody's there, and they turn around and look even though they haven't seen them with their natural eyes. And I also noticed that the men were really looking at her, and you know, they would look and up and down again, and the second time and the third time. And I thought, now that is unusual. You know, when you notice somebody that is attractive, you do look at them up and down, maybe twice, but not with the kind of look that, you know, really, come on type of a thing. And not only that, but I noticed that the wives were now becoming also distressed a little bit. And if their husbands were looking a little bit too long, and they would turn and look at her, well, the wife would take the husband's head and flip it back this way again. Now I noticed little jealousies that would start to take place. And women would be very protective of their husbands. And I thought, what is going on here? This is really unusual, you know, because I saw other women in these groups of people that were really more attractive than her. And why weren't they getting more attention? Didn't make sense. Well, she had a special way of walking. And of course, as she walked, the backside, you know, just had a special sway to it, you know. Just a special sway as she walked. She took me into her house one day, and this is the second time I was in her house. And she decided that she was going to show me her clothes. And I went to see in her closet, and every one of her dresses were either extremely low cut here, or she had to be poured and molded into every dress. And they were so skin tight that, you know, when she got into them, she'd have to, you know, wiggle to get in. I wondered, what is with this? I noticed something else about her. As I would walk down the street with her, because I wasn't about to shun her, I was trying to help her, that even people on the street would turn around and take another look and another look after she had gone by. Then I found out that the men were following her home. Now, something was a little unusual about this situation. This woman had what we call a seducing spirit. Okay? How do I know that? Well, I'm going to tell you the end of the story first. Now, that's unusual for me, isn't it? After after this woman had been delivered, she told me that she had literally prayed to the devil. She said that her mother and father had mistreated her. She'd been sent away to some private schools, and one particular school she remembered, she locked herself in the closet. And she thought, nobody loves me and nobody cares for me. And I want to be loved and I want others to love me. And she literally gave herself over to a seducing spirit, thinking that if she could just attract men and be the center of attraction, that this would give her the love that she wanted. So really she had a welcome mat there. And in the one that we've already discussed, a spirit, okay, wandering by, trying to find a house to dwell in and finds none, okay. But in this case, this one did find a watering hole and found a place to light and came and housed within her. Well, I was very much aware that we were dealing with something very, very strange here. And this girl would often take off on weekends. She was married, she had children, and she would take off without saying a word. And the husband would come home, and of course the children would be without the mother being there, and the husband wondered where his wife was. The whole home situation really, as far as the atmosphere of the home is concerned, was really in a sad situation. She continually tried to impress me with all of her escapades and all of the horrible things that she was doing. And she found out that I was never shocked. She tried to be demonstrative and tried to get me to say, "Oh, isn't that horrible?" Now, in the church where she had come to a knowledge of Christ, she had just done this to some of these people. They were very nice Christians that went to church on Sundays, and they saw no evil, they did no evil, and you know, it was just one of those things that they put the blinders on and they saw nothing that went on in the world other than the nice things that Christians always do. And I don't even know if they wondered if they ever rubbed shoulders with anybody else, knowing that there were unsafe people in the world. And so, of course, as long as they didn't talk about these things, you know, then they were never shocked. But listen, we are living in a real world. We are living in a world where many things are taking place, and it's high time the Christians got out of their comfortable pews to see what goes on in the world to deliver people who are bound. And we should not be shocked by the things that go on. And as long as we put on the nice sanctimonious air, "Oh my, isn't that awful? Oh goodness, oh my. Oh look, Jesus was never shocked. He loved the sinner. And I would talk to this woman, and she'd tell me all these terrible stories of the things that she was doing, and I would continue to love her. Night after night after night, she would call me on the telephone, wake me up 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. She'd been out drinking. She, at this point, her speech is very slurred. "I'm over here at John's house, and I'm just wondering what I should do." Now, I would say to her, "Look, honey, look, why don't you put your shoes back on and go on home where you belong?" I never reprimanded her. I never scolded her. I tried to encourage her. Because the following day, in the morning, she'd phone me up on the phone again, hungry for wanting to know something on the things of God. And this whole thing, you know, I'm trying to make sense out of it. Well, I was extremely patient with this woman. Now, this was not really Mary Goddard. At that time in my life, I was the most impatient creature. I could never wait for anything. Never. Always in a hurry. Everything had to be done yesterday. And I was always trying to put my hand in the pie and stirring it around to help God get his work done. He wasn't getting done fast enough. Man, he was slow. So I knew that when this woman called me on the phone, that I should have been, under normal circumstances, knowing me, to say, "Hey, look, quit calling me in the middle of the night. Leave me alone, let me sleep." And be impatient with her and cut her off and, you know, not be gentle. And so the fruit of the Spirit, patience, was really being manifested now in my life, and I knew it didn't come from me. It came by a special ability from God. Well, this woman kept saying from time after time that she was feeling sorry about the way she was living on some occasions, and then immediately following, the next night, she'd be out again, walking down the street or picking herself up another man. Now, I know you want to hear the rest of this story, so will you come back next time, and I'm going to share with you.